This encounter might touch your soul in a special way, and it is not by chance that this message reached you precisely now. There are encounters that pass through our lives like a common conversation, a quick look, a beautiful moment, and nothing more. But there are others that stir something inside, that leave something in the chest, that awaken a feeling difficult to explain, and that is exactly what the angels want to talk to you about today. There is an encounter being prepared, brought closer or maturing on the spiritual plane, and it carries a different energy. It is not just about seeing someone, hearing a voice, or living a beautiful coincidence. It is about feeling something deeper, as if a part of you recognized it even before your mind could understand. And I will tell you with much affection, when this type of encounter happens, the soul notices first. Maybe you are already feeling this without being able to put it into words. Maybe there is a silent expectation inside your heart, a feeling that something important is approaching. Sometimes a person doesn't even know where this intuition comes from. They just feel it. They just notice that the heart becomes more attentive, that sensitivity increases, that some memories return, that certain signs begin to appear. And in my vision, these moments deserve to be listened to with calm, because not everything that touches the soul arrives making noise. Some of the most striking things in life arrive in silence, but leave a deep echo inside us. The angels show that this encounter does not come only to stir your emotions. It comes to awaken perceptions, heal tired parts of your heart, and remind you that there are still experiences capable of bringing back brightness to what seemed asleep. It could be an encounter with someone who has already passed through your life. It could be someone who is yet to appear. It could even be a reconnection that heaven is organizing in a very delicate way. The most important thing here is not to try to control exactly how this will happen, but to understand that there is a spiritual movement around you, and it is preparing your soul to receive something significant. You know what I think is beautiful about messages like this? It is that they don't talk only about romance, expectation, or destiny. They talk about sensitivity. They talk about that instant when you realize that you are not hardened inside, that you can still feel, still believe, still recognize when something carries truth. And that is precious. Because after certain disappointments, certain silences, certain heavier phases, many people begin to protect themselves so much that they almost don't allow themselves to feel anything deeply anymore. But the angels are showing me that your heart was not made to live anesthetized. It was made to live with truth, with depth, with presence. It could be that you spent some time trying to seem strong, trying not to create expectation, trying to tell yourself that it doesn't matter. But deep down, there was a part of you asking for a sign, asking for something that made sense, something that wasn't just another empty experience. And this message arrives as an answer, because heaven saw your most silent nights, saw the moments when you withdrew, saw the questions you asked without saying to anyone. The angels want you to know that there is indeed a special touch being prepared for your soul. And when that happens, you will realize that certain connections don't need exaggerated effort to be felt. They simply arrive and find space inside us. Before continuing, write this mantra in the comments. My heart recognizes what comes in peace and truth. Write it with faith, because when you write, it seems that your soul agrees with what heaven is whispering over your life today. And I like these moments of interior agreement very much, because sometimes a person just needs to assume before themselves that they are ready to receive something good. The angels show that this encounter carries a mirror energy, not in the sense of repeating old pains or reviving confusions, but in the sense of revealing to you what your heart is needing to see. There are encounters that show our needs, and there are encounters that show our maturity. There are encounters that mess things up, and there are encounters that align. What is being shown here has the potential to touch your soul in a special way, precisely because it comes to reveal how much you grew, how much you matured, how much you already don't accept just anything that confuses your peace anymore. Maybe this person or this situation awakens an old memory in you. Maybe it stirs something you thought you had already overcome, but the angels insist on saying that this time it is not to hurt you. It is to show you the difference between what only excites for an instant and what truly reaches the soul. And that makes all the difference, because not everything that makes the heart race deserves to enter your life truly. Sometimes what is worth it is precisely that which brings depth without taking away your peace. Take a deep breath for an instant and feel this. Not always the most important encounter will be the loudest, the most intense, or the most cinematographic. Sometimes it will be the most serene, the one that makes you feel presence instead of anxiety, clarity instead of confusion, comfort instead of a tight chest. And I am telling you this because many people confuse emotional impact with spiritual truth. Not everything that stirs a lot is necessarily right, but that which touches your soul and at the same time respects your peace usually brings a different sign. The angels also show that you need to enter this time with less fear. I know it is not always easy. When a person has already lived through goodbyes, mismatches, frustrations, or empty promises, it is natural that the heart becomes more cautious. But caution doesn't need to become closure. Protection doesn't need to become distance from everything that can be beautiful. Heaven doesn't want you to live surrendering to any illusion, but it also doesn't want you to reject something special just because you already suffered before. There is a difference between discerning and closing yourself off. And today, the angels want to strengthen in you precisely this discernment. Maybe you are asking yourself, but how will I know if this encounter is really special? And the answer that comes is very clear. You will notice by the emotional fruits it produces inside you. You will notice by the peace that remains afterward. You will notice by the way your soul expands instead of shrinking. You will notice because it won't be just a momentary excitement. It will be a feeling of meaning. Something inside you will say, this here has depth. Not because everything will be perfect, but because there will be truth. Now I want to ask you for a simple but powerful thing. Write 8 in the comments as an act of agreement with this message and with the sensitivity that heaven is awakening in you today. Your lucky number in this message is 8, and it talks about emotional strength, maturity, and openness to live something significant without losing your center. And if this message is doing you good, take the chance to look at the donation QR code in the video or the link that is in the description and pinned comment. This gesture of affection helps this word to continue reaching other people who are also needing comfort, clarity, and hope. There is an even more beautiful part of this message. The angels show that this encounter doesn't come only to touch your soul, but to reveal an answer you might have been looking for some time ago. Not necessarily an answer in words, but in feeling, in understanding, in interior confirmation. There are things the mind spends a lot of time trying to decipher, but the heart understands in a few seconds when it finds truth. Maybe you have been carrying questions about reciprocity, about purpose, about connection, about feeling, about direction. And this encounter can serve as an emotional key to place some pieces in the right place. In my vision, one of the most beautiful things in life is when heaven allows an encounter to arrive, not to confuse even more, but to illuminate. And I feel that it is this energy that is being shown here. It is not an empty encounter. It is not a chance without purpose. There is something being aligned so that you perceive what you deserve, what you feel, what you learned, and what you don't want to repeat anymore. This is very strong, because sometimes the blessing is not only in finding someone, but in finding yourself better inside after this moment. The angels ask that you observe the signs before this encounter: a gentle restlessness, a recurring memory, more vivid dreams. an unexpected desire to take care of yourself more, to dress up more, to open space in your emotional life. All of this can be part of the preparation. When the soul perceives that something special approaches, it begins to move even before the events become clear in the visible world. And maybe that is why you are already feeling a change inside, even without knowing exactly how to explain it. If you are listening to this message in a more sensitive moment, maybe at night, maybe with a slightly tired heart, I want you to feel that this word is reaching you with much respect, because I know that not every woman who hears this type of message is light inside. Often she is holding on to longings, doubts, memories, fears. And even so, she continues looking for a light, continues trying to believe, continues hoping that something still touches her heart in a beautiful way. And I tell you with sincerity, this is not weakness. This is the proof that your sensitivity continues alive. The angels also reveal that this encounter can stir an area of your life that was emotionally frozen. Maybe you got used to not expecting much from anyone. Maybe you reduced your dreams so as not to get frustrated. Maybe you created a more practical way of living so as not to touch certain wounds. But heaven wants to blow again over the part of you that still desires to live something real, not something perfect, not something fanciful, but something true. And this touch on the soul can begin precisely with an encounter that seems simple on the outside, but on the inside has a different depth. Before continuing, if you are not subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe and stay with us. Here there is always a word of faith, welcome and comfort for the days when the heart needs to breathe. And I like to remind this, because nobody should cross difficult emotional phases without a word that brings a bit of direction. The angels show me that you need to go with lightness, but also with attention. Do not try to anticipate everything. Do not try to control every detail. Do not force signs. Do not transform expectation into anxiety. What is special doesn't need to be pursued with desperation. What is true finds space to happen. And I think it is important to tell you this because sometimes the desire to live something beautiful can make a person get ahead emotionally. But this message talks about mature confidence. It talks about allowing time to reveal. It talks about opening the heart without losing lucidity. It could be that this encounter happens in a common context, in an unexpected conversation, in an approach that seemed unlikely, in a resumption you didn't expect so much anymore. And it is curious how heaven likes to use simplicity to touch deeply. Not always the most transforming moment comes with an announcement. Sometimes it arrives like a common afternoon and, suddenly, leaves a mark that your soul recognizes right away. You step out of that instant different, more awake, more touched, more conscious of something that before was covered up. I also feel that this message talks about interior preparation. The angels want you to arrive at this encounter whole, or at least more conscious of yourself. Do not arrive begging for answers. Do not arrive trying to prove your value. Do not arrive diminishing yourself to fit into anyone's feeling. What touches the soul in a special way doesn't demand that you abandon yourself. On the contrary, that which comes from God usually brings you closer to your dignity, closer to your peace, closer to your truth. Maybe this is one of the most important parts of the message. This encounter doesn't have the function of completing you as if you were incomplete without it. It comes to touch, confirm, awaken, illuminate, but not to replace your identity. And that changes everything. Because when a woman understands her own value, she manages to live special encounters without losing herself inside them. She manages to feel deeply without stopping to respect herself. She manages to love without giving up her own peace. And I think that is beautiful. Because faith and love should never diminish you. The angels show further that after this encounter, something inside you will want silence. Not a silence of sadness, but of assimilation. Like when the soul needs time to understand the beauty of what it felt. It could be that you stay thoughtful. It could be that you recall details. It could be that you feel a desire to pray, to thank, to reflect. This also is a sign. When something touches only the surface, it passes fast. When it touches the soul, it remains in a serene and deep way. Write in the comments a list of people, including yourself, whom you would like to forgive. Visualize each of them, send love, and say, "I forgive you and I release you. May peace be with you." Feel the lightness this brings, because the angels show that part of the sensitivity necessary to live this encounter in a beautiful way is linked to the cleansing of the heart. A heart loaded with old weights can even feel, but sometimes cannot receive fully. And today there is an invitation for you to loosen up a bit more inside. There is also a healing of self-esteem happening in this message. Because deep down, when a woman believes she deserves only crumbs, she doesn't easily recognize what comes with depth. But when she understands that she deserves respect, presence, truth, and reciprocity, she begins to identify better what is really worth it. So this special encounter also connects with your perception of value. It doesn't come only to stir your emotional side. It comes to remind you of the type of connection that matches the woman you are becoming. You know, I feel very strongly that some women who are listening to this message have already lived encounters that seemed promising and later turned into frustration. Therefore, there is a fear in there, a thought that says, "What if I feel too much?" And in the end, it is nothing. But the angels aren't asking you to throw yourself without discernment. They are asking you not to kill the sensitivity that God placed in you just because the past was harsh. Not every encounter repeats a disappointment. Not every approach is born to hurt. And sometimes the blessing begins precisely when the person goes back to believing with maturity. There is something very important happening on the spiritual plane. Your soul is being taught to recognize what makes sense. And that is worth more than any momentary impulse, because when you learn to recognize what comes in peace, you don't allow yourself to be impressed so easily by what is only intense. This learning protects you and at the same time prepares you. Heaven doesn't want you hardened. Heaven wants you conscious. The angels say that maybe this encounter brings words you needed to hear. It can be a conversation that gives back clarity. It can be a look that transmits truth. It can be the way the person sees you, listens to you, welcomes you. It can even be a reconnection with a version of yours that was forgotten. And I like this possibility very much, because sometimes the most special encounter is not only with the other, but with the part of us that goes back to breathing after much time in silence. Share this video with 2 dear people who need this message today. And if you can, also leave a prayer for your guardian angel in the comments. This creates a very beautiful chain of faith, and I really believe that when several people unite in sincere intention, something light and good happens in the spiritual environment. The angels are showing you that the most important thing will not be the appearance of this encounter, but the effect of it inside you. The special touch is not only in what will be said, but in what will be awakened. A new hope might arise. A peace you hadn't felt for a long time might be born. A different courage to live what is true might appear. There might come even a silent confirmation that you are not late to live something beautiful. And I want to tell you this with much care. Do not think your time passed. Do not think your soul closed forever. Do not think only others live striking encounters. Heaven also knows how to touch your story. Maybe you diminished your expectations so as not to get disappointed. Maybe you learned to live without expecting much. But God knows the part of your heart that still desires to be touched with delicacy, and there is nothing wrong with that. The problem was never wanting something real. The problem was having found on the path people or situations that didn't know how to honor the depth that exists in you. Only that doesn't define what can still happen from now on. The angels want you to enter the next days with more spiritual attention. Pray more, observe more, feel more, not in the sense of imagining things, but in the sense of being present. Some answers don't arrive by force, they arrive by perception. And when a woman is present in herself, she captures better what is really worth keeping in the heart and what needs to just let pass. If this encounter already has a name in your mind, pray for clarity. If it doesn't have yet, then pray for direction. If there exists someone in your heart, ask that God show what is true. If there doesn't exist anyone, ask that heaven prepare your steps and your emotional side. The important thing is not to transform this message into affliction. Transform into prayer, into emotional vigilance, into mature openness, because that which touches the soul in a special way also asks for a heart available to perceive. And I am going to finish telling you something I feel with much sincerity. Sometimes a woman thinks she needs big signs to believe, but there are moments when a single encounter suffices to replace her heart on the path of hope. A single moment can show that there still exists truth, that there still exists delicacy, that there still exists connection with sense. And if this message reached you today, maybe it is because heaven is preparing your heart exactly for that. If this message spoke with you, write in the comments, "My soul recognizes what comes with truth and peace." Share your experience, like this video, and subscribe to the channel for more messages like this. May God bless your life deeply, protect your heart, and conduct your encounters. Until the next video.